Hello, hi everyone. I see that more and more people are joining the stream. This is very good to see. Thank you for your time. And I also see that Joe is with us here. Hi,
Hi guys.
Joe. Great, we can hear you. I hope everyone else can hear you too. And welcome, finally welcome to another episode of our HaiStudy. And today I'll be the moderator, Anna, channel marketing here at Hai Robotics, and I am delighted to be in the company of this gentleman and professionals in warehouse, especially with my colleague here, Nick.
Hi, everybody, thank you for joining. I'm Nick Hughes. I'm country manager for Hai Robotics, managing the UK and Ireland. The main function of country manager is to support, educate, and effectively help the local partners and the end customers to support them to be able to design, specify, and ultimately use the HiPick product at the end.
Thank you. Thank you. And also in our digital space, we have Joe, and Joe is our partner, logistics partner in the UK. Hi,
Hi
Joe.
everyone. Yeah, Joe Stewart, Business Development Manager with 8 years experience in warehouse automation. I worked extensively on the Fenny Lock automation project, so it's great to be here today to discuss the success story.
Thank you, Joe. I think this is the right time for us to dig into who we are and what this webinar is about. And yes, Nick, please, can you tell us more what we are here?
Absolutely. So I'll just give a brief introduction into Hai Robotics. So we are a global and leading provider of ASRS solutions. We have been around since 2016 and are the inventors of the ACR technology, which stands for Autonomous Case Handling, which for those who don't know, we'll go through it in a short while, but it's essentially a modular, flexible ASRS system. So imagine like a crane on wheels. So in doing so, we can provide a much more modular, flexible alternative to, say, fixed automation. And as you can see on the slide there, we're trusted by various industry leaders, including John Lewis. Our presence in EMEA is growing very, very fast. Since 2021, we've delivered over 3,500 robots in the region. We're serving 18 countries with over 100 employees across 3 offices. So we're very excited for the future journey that we're going on.
That's great to hear. And what about the industry? How the industry works these days?
Sure. So to be honest, everyone on the call, I'm sure will be facing one of these 6 challenges. And they all fit into what I call the holy trinity of warehouse automation. So saving space, time, or money. So if we go through the ones on the deck here, insufficient space, or what we often find is that customers have space, but they're just using it poorly. So that creates a kind of lag in operational speed. And when you combine that with rising costs, especially in the UK at the moment, we have national insurance rises, which are coming into play now, which means it's never been a more expensive time to run a warehouse. We still have the labor shortage, which can lead to, especially at peak times, some unpredictable and unreliable staffing things. And of course, we have the classic hero story where businesses start small and they grow and they grow and they're getting successful. But what they've done is they've stacked process on top of process on top of process, which has meant that they have a very complex operation. And we aim to solve that through our various product ranges.
Thank you. And the product ranges.
Yeah. Yes, nice segue.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so we started off with our HiPick System 1, which is that flexible ACR that we spoke about, and is actually what was deployed at the John Lewis site. It's particularly good if we're using customer totes or we have a high variability of tote sizes. And it's really unique in combination with one of our high ports, where we can dock with things like conveyor to get the most optimal use out of each tote that we pull out the system. But we'll go into that in a little bit later on. Moving on to our HiPick System 2. This is where we can combine tote storage with bulk storage. So we've got our ACR working in a companion mode with a large AMR. So for example, if we're picking, for example, home furnishings, a lampshade is not necessarily going to fit in a tote, but the bulbs do. So that means we can pick the shade and the bulb all from one operator station. Our HiPick System 3 is our most storage dense system. So in combination with our hook tote, we can go up to 3 totes deep and actually 6 totes deep between aisles. So it's extremely storage dense. And again, we use a companion robot in the system, which is a very, very fast small AMR. So we keep our ACRs in aisle and then do the kind of movement tasks to the operate stations or conveyors or whatever using the small AMRs. Finally, onto our HiPick Climb, which is our latest offering, which we had the honor of kind of presenting at the LogiMAT show this year. And this combines the best of both. So it combines the speed and agility of the small AMRs with the ability to actually go and pick the product of the toolbots. And we do that in one really cool, compact, small AMR form factor, which is revolutionizing the industry at the moment. So it's extremely high performing, very good storage density, and we're finding it's becoming more and more applicable to most projects that we work on.
Thank you. That's a great overview. And these are the products that we are proud of. But what we are most proud about is our partnerships. And I'm glad that today this webinar is together with our partner Logistics. Joe, can you dig into the who is Logistics and what is their presence on the market?
Yeah, sure. So the origins of Logistics started out 85 years ago as Clico, who were a prominent figure for providing warehouse automation, materials handling equipment. Over a number of acquisitions throughout the years, we changed hands to FKI Logistics before becoming Logistics as a UK independent systems integrator. Because we don't have any manufacturing ties and we are an integrator, that gives us a level of flexibility to go out to the market to choose the right technology or product for the challenge in hand. The only product we do manufacture in-house is our Reflex or WES, or Warehouse Execution System, which sits as the integration layer above the automation that we choose. In terms of the services that we provide solution design, so concepting through to consultancy, then detailed design, simulation, emulation. As I've mentioned, we obviously produce our own control layer. And then we also have our own after-sales support teams, which cover 24/7 hotline support and resident maintenance for larger scale projects.
Thank you, Joe. And let's finally go into the detail of the HaiStudy, of the case study of our end user. Joe, can you introduce us? Who was the end user and how we ended up to do this project?
Yeah, sure. So John Lewis are a well-known and recognised brand within the UK. They're kind of known as the original department store, dating back to 1864. In terms of the products and services they provide, it's a mix of fashion, home, technology, and more. Currently, they're operating around 36 department stores across the UK, and they've got an ever-growing online presence. In 2021, John Lewis board made the strategic decision to acquire Fedilock to improve and add to the operational capacity they have within the network. So in terms of Fedilock, what does it bring? Fedilock is located within the centre of the country. It's also closer to their other NDCs or national distribution centres. And what that allows them to do is really cut down on the trunking and transportation costs between the facilities. In terms of the warehouse itself, it has existing infrastructure such as a multi-level pick tower, conveyors and manual pack stations. And the reason John Lewis went for this, it was really in line with their vision for sustainability to repurpose this equipment. But it was quickly discovered, recognised by the John Lewis engineering team that to transition kind of the e-com process into Fedilock, just using the pick tower and these manual pack stations would be extremely resource heavy and having labour challenges. So really the automation opportunity was recognised early on by John Lewis. So what challenges? Oh,
go on. Yeah. Floor is yours.
So what challenges does Fedilock solve? Well, like I said, there was obviously a business shift from retail to e-com. So with a growing SKU range and obviously order picking needed to be faster and more efficient, FennyLock, adding the automation to FennyLock solves these problems. Labour challenges, obviously it's difficult to recruit and retain operatives, which was driven by the pandemic. So putting in an automation system such as a goods-to-person picking technology really allows us to reduce the number of heads that we have in the facility. Order complexity across channels. So picking for retail and e-com, what we need to be able to do is quickly separate those orders out. This is where the warehouse execution system comes into play, because we can quickly prioritize orders between the different automation systems to make the most efficient picks. And then there's also challenging peaks. So I mentioned the pick tower previously. What we wanted to do was give the best balance between automation and the manual picking process, because that gives this best payback. So for example, Black Friday, we have volumes that are significantly higher than the average. So what we can do is use most of the automation to cover the average scenario. And then on the peak day, we can man up the pick tower as required to fulfill the peak day volumes effectively. So how did the collaboration process start with HaiRobotics? Well, we got the RFP and data in from John Lewis. We go through the process of reviewing the order data to determine the throughput. We also look at the SKU and stock holding data to determine, well, what's the location or storage requirement. They then provide their forecasts or growth plans throughout the years, so typically a 5 to 7 year program. We then add those factors onto the throughput and storage requirements to kind of get our end game scenario. Once we have that end game scenario, we can put that into a material flow model, and then it was really to send that out to the market, and we provided that to HaiRobotics, who then put it through the pre-sales tool.
Yeah, perfect. So to follow on from what Joe's saying there is, we understand that customers, end users, as well as integrators, need fast turnarounds, they need accurate modeling, and they usually want it within a couple of weeks. So at HaiRobotics, we've recognized this and have met that demand by developing an in-house tool called the pre-sales tool. So you can see a picture of it on the slide there. And what we can do is very, very quickly take the information that Joe provides us, put it into this tool, and create multiple concepts, including 3D renders, 2D CAD layouts, as well as a fleet size very, very fast. We then take this tool and can develop it further downstream and input these into our simulation tools later on. So in this case, we were able to support logistics by being agile and flexible in the design process. So changes were very fast. And I think the output, Joe, you can agree, was that it was very quickly determined that the HiPick system provided the best storage density compared to other products in the market at the time.
Definitely. The fact that you guys were able to go out to 10 meters to use the full building cube was a winner, when other competitors on the market were only able to go up to 8 meters at the time, effectively giving you guys the best storage density. So then in terms of the system architecture, to give everyone, the audience, a view of how the system operates at FennyLock, we have the host ERP system, which effectively provides the orders down to Reflex, which is the warehouse execution system. We can then dynamically group the orders together into tasks. Those tasks are then provided to the Hai grey box, where you effectively can choose and cluster the totes, stock totes that you need to pick out, and they can then be provided to the goods to person stations, which are controlled by logistics. So in terms of the high level process flow for FennyLock, we obviously have inbound, where we receive 600 by 400 millimeter totes, pre-toted. Those are fed into the Hai storage cube. This Hai storage block really acts as the main engine for feeding the goods to person picking that we provide. At the pick stations, we have 2 common orders, which are single unit and multi-line orders. For single unit orders, we are typically, batching them together into a tote. Those are then going to the automated bagging solutions that we have at packing. And again, that's to reduce labor requirements and really increase productivity for the end user. If they're multi-line orders and they have, multiple units that need to be consolidated in terms of into one parcel effectively, then they go to a manual pack station. We also have the pick tower to consider here. As I said, in peak periods, that will be fully stocked and manned up. So we need to be able to consolidate orders from both systems. So what we have is a put wall where order totes from both systems are picked and sent to. Those orders are then merged into one tote and then effectively sent to packing. And we do have some AMRs also incorporated within the pick tower process to help improve picking efficiencies.
Thank you, Joe. I think this is a very complex situation which you perfectly described, and I guess nothing tells a story better than a visualizing of it. And here we have a short video from the location where we can see how the products being displayed on the screens of the operator. So it makes them definitely easier to pick the right thing from the tote, especially if the red dress is on the screen and you have the tote only with blue ones. The error can be omitted there. Next, it goes to the operators where the totes, as you mentioned, can be or consolidated or went directly to the packing station. And after that, we can see, as you just mentioned, the locus robots with who you worked in order to consolidate the products and then also send to the packing. Oh, that parcel arrived somewhere. And can you please, Nick, tell us, so what's high input there?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we look at the picture, if the audience can see the slides, effectively everything to the left of the fence line is within the high robotic scope. So we have 60 A42T robots, which are doing all the picking operations and delivering to our high ports, of which we have 6 used for the outbound, as you can see here, and the inbound process is actually on the other side of the building. We are reusing the John Lewis totes, which I think is a really big USP actually. So we're not forcing customers down the road of having to buy new ones. So the high robotic system can handle end user totes or cartons or whichever. And once the tote comes out of the system, this is the value the integrator brings of being able to tie it all together with a nice bit of conveyor. So effectively, once the tote's out, it can join or go to any workstation where it could possibly be needed, effectively reducing the amount of storage and retrievals required at any time. So in summary, what we managed to achieve versus before was a 300% increase in storage density. The peak demand, 1,500 totes per hour out of those 60 robots. And of course, we've provided a scalable future-ready system. So if John Lewis wanted to add further locations or add extra performance, they could do either or. The really nice thing, sorry. So the nice thing about, again, having the conveyor piece is that to achieve a really optimal storage utilization. So in the system, we have over 2 million pieces. What the reflex system can do is a kind of defrag stroke tote merge process. So during the downtimes, instead of having 2 totes which are quite empty, we can take the totes from tote A, not the totes, take the product from tote A, put it into tote B, which then frees up that tote to get used again for the replenishment process. Okay, so just to sort of recap on what we said, really. So the nice thing is with using flexible AMRs like the high robotics is that you can add either storage or capacity without having to necessarily do the other. So with traditional fixed automation, if you wanted to add extra storage, by default, you have to add, say, another crane or other fixed equipment to be able to access that stock. We don't have to do that. We're very modular in our approach. And of course, in this situation, we have very, very high storage density going up to 10 meters high, meaning that we can get more out of the same footprint versus, say, a manual operation or what have you. And that in itself supports a very lean pick process because you don't have operators running up and down aisles. As you saw in the video, they're pretty much stuck in or not stuck, but a place, should we say, they're not caged in. They're placed in an area with anti-fatigue mats. So actually their day is a lot nicer. They're not going to get sore feet. They're not going to get tired. And overall, that also leads to higher staff retention.
That's beautiful. And I also heard about the cost efficiencies. Let's talk about money.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of these topics we've just discovered, but of course, if you get more in the same footprint, then you have to buy less footprint. So nowadays, warehouse space is, of course, on the rise. And then by being able to reuse the John Lewis totes, totes are not cheap anymore. And if there's 100,000 of them, that also kept the project costs down. And when we look at the labor optimization, you're getting much more out of each operator with higher picking rates and etc., which meant that the ROI came within the expected customer timeline of 4 to 5 years.
That's beautiful that it's not just the promises that we make with the ROI, but also with the appreciation from the end user, especially with the work together with our integrator, with logistics. We are proud to hear from the end user, from John Nelly, who is the head of distribution at JLP, and how he proudly said this efficiency was an important metric that they did achieve. So indeed, this is a proud moment for High Robotics, I think, as well as for logistics, especially on the moment that it's not just something that we are silently proud of, but we also are proud of our awards. And one of the latest awards that logistics, together with JLP, got is on Tomorrow's Warehouse. What was 2 weeks ago or something?
Yes, it was indeed. Yeah.
So this brings me to the question: is it open for the visits? Can we experience JLP Fenilog?
Absolutely. So it's always a good testament when customers allow us to do webinars like this, but also to have a very open site. Joe is there probably every other week at least.
Yeah, feels like that.
And he's been a fantastic host, and the team on site are very, very accommodating. So yeah, if people would like to come to see, so this is a bit of a teaser today of the site, but if you would like to come and have a look, then please get in contact with either myself or Joe, and we'll be happy to arrange that.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Sign me up, please sign me up. And I think last but not least, I'd like to invite everyone to our exhibitions where we will demonstrate HiPClimb live in the Netherlands at Deliver and Motorlog in Poland from 3rd to 5th of June. And of course, if you're from the UK, wait for the IMA checks, which is in September, to not be able just to see HiPClimb yourself, but also have the good conversation with the integrators, with logistics, as our booths are close by. And for us to go to the questions maybe, because I saw quite some of them popping in the Q&A box. If we see the first one.
Okay, so the question is, can you handle plastic totes only or cardboard boxes also? Very good question. So depending on the HiPic system, depends on the answer to that a little bit. So with HiPic systems 1 to 3, we can absolutely handle both totes and cartons. Even in the same system, we can handle both. So if you have, for example, a retail operation and e-com, you can have, say, your e-com stock in totes and then retail cases to go out to the stores. So that's all handled with our HiPClimb product. What we can do, or we can do this with the other ones as well, is actually put cartons on trays. So we can then handle the trays instead of the carton directly. So there's always a solution for such problem, and we'll be happy to work with whoever asked the question on that project.
Thank you. I see the second one is, may I learn how long did it take to make the challenges complete? Joe, maybe is the good question to you.
Yeah, sure. So I think the on-site program was around 12 months. I would say the kind of pre-sales phase, almost getting the contracts together, getting the designs, doing the simulation. I think that will take, realistically about 2 to 3 months. So obviously sped up by the help of the pre-sales tool. But really, I would say it sits around those kind of length of duration.
Okay, thank you, Joe. And for the next question, would this setup still work if we have different tote sizes or rack heights?
Yeah, for sure. So actually, since this site was deployed, we can now actually go all the way to 12 meters with our standard A42 product. So in this case, we would just get even higher storage density if the site building was taller. And as far as different tote sizes, of course, we can handle totes from the small 200 by 400 all the way up to the 800, 600 totes, which again is a unique proposition for Hai versus some of our competition.
Beautiful. I think that's also links to one of the questions I see here. How long was the integrated testing period? I think that's also can go to Joe.
Yeah, so I think it was a couple of months. I think, being honest, we had a couple of challenges around the commissioning of the robots. As we always, there's always challenges on automation projects, but the point is we came together to make kind of a smaller area, enclosed area where we could commission the robots, and we delivered the project on time. But I would say that took a couple of months, effectively.
I see. For the next question is, as this is a denser storage system, what sprinkler system design was required to achieve FM 834? This is already a technical question. Guys, who would pick it?
Yeah, I mean, that's very specific. I know that the design was to FM global standards, and we have sprinkler levels, I'd say, every kind of 2.5 meters. But yeah, I would have to go and validate that.
Yeah, generally speaking, when it comes to things like the sprinkler design, we work with the individual sites, the insurers, because they often have nuances where they might prefer it's to FM, but actually the insurance accepts it if it's slightly different. So we tend to take it on a project by project basis. And again, this is why the collaboration with the partner and the end user is so important to make sure that we get these things ironed out in the design stage.
True, true. It's also on the country basis, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, what's allowed in the UK might not be allowed somewhere else, for example.
Yeah.
Maybe there is another one I see. What is the acceptable carton size and weight?
Sure. So I could give you the range instead of going through each of the high-pick products. But like I said in the previous moment, we can start with a 200, by 300, say, KLT size box. A couple of kilos really we need at minimum, which is usually what a tote is anyhow, all the way up to an 800 by 600 box.
And the weights?
And the weights are standard. We have 30 kilos. For specials, we can go up to 50. So not many totes are designed for 50 kilos, so I think we're covered.
That's a great one. Another one would be, it looks like a system that can directly compare it to a mini load with a stacker crane. How does the performance and costs compare to a mini load?
Yes, so actually I would say it can't be directly compared because we're not fixed. So we can add many more robots, we can increase the fleet size per aisle. So I wouldn't say it's directly comparable. I think there is a point of crossover between products usually, and we would have to look at not just it from a product perspective, but an order profile perspective. What's driving the volume? What's the ABC classification, etc., to be able to make that distinction. So sorry for not directly answering that, but I would say that an AMR system usually is more cost effective than
And scalable as well, I think it's fair to say, Nick. Yeah, because you can add AMRs as your throughput grows, which you can't with a fixed system like a mini load.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. And let's maybe go to the next. Any installations done in Middle East, Saudi Arabia? That's a good question.
That's a good one. I would have to come back to
this,
Krish on that one. I'm responsible for the UK and Ireland, so I don't have complete visibility on that. I know we do have projects in the Middle East. I know we have some in Turkey. How open they are,
There are
I'm not
two.
sure. But of course we can come back and answer that one.
Is the facility set up to work on solar? Oh, I think this is a good question to Joe.
Yeah, I believe so. They're certainly moving towards that in line with their vision of being more sustainable at John Lewis.
It's a really good question actually, because we get asked about things like power requirements, and our power requirements are very low. You know, we can use a standard socket to for our chargers. Very low power consumption versus say some other systems. So from an infrastructure point of view, if you did have something like solar, it's probably a lot more able to handle, because you don't get such a peak load as you would do with some other automation.
I see, I see. Is concrete floor flatness and levelness typically assessed to make sure the floor tolerances allow for robots to move at full speed and efficiency? This is
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's a few ways we do this. If it's a new build, which some projects are, then we can specify to the builder to say, this is what our floor requirements are. So we know when it goes in, it's going to be absolutely fine. But Joe will be able to support me on this with John Lewis. We did a floor survey. You guys did a floor survey, and then had to complete some works to ensure that the floor was completely flat.
Yeah, we had to get the floor ground down to effectively meet the flatness requirements that you guys had in your specifications.
Thank you. And I also see that a lot of questions are still coming, and let's take another one. If this depends of the height of storage and maximum, what? Appreciate this depends on height of storage and maximum weight of storage, but do you require specific slab requirements like you would with the ICRS system?
Yeah, so essentially we'd provide with the scope of works document what that would be depending on the design and the product, because they're different for the various high-pick systems.
I see. That was a short one. Thank you. Another one. How do emergency stops work in your AMRs?
Yeah.
PLCs use safety for speed and redundancy. Do your AMRs rely on Wi-Fi?
So the AMRs are connected to Wi-Fi. However, because they're all fenced off, in this case, when you open the fence, the system will either come to a safe speed or a complete stop. On board of the AMRs themselves, there's all the standard safety, like the e-stops, there's the sensors and everything like that. So I hope that answers the question from a basic level. We do have some cool new premium safety options, which I won't go into today. Perhaps we can answer on another webinar.
True. Thank you so much. Okay, gentlemen, I am thanking you for being with me today. Also, thank you everyone who joined this webinar. All the questions that are still left unanswered, we will collect all of them and we'll make sure to come back to you through the email with a direct answer to all of your questions. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Anna.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys.
Goodbye. Thank you.